Hello and welcome to the program. I'm your host, Neal Howard, here on Health Professional Radio. I'm joined today by retired UPS freight delivery driver David Ball, and he's going to talk with us about a rare autoimmune neuromuscular disease known as GMG. Now, June is MG Awareness Month, making this particularly timely. Welcome to the program, David.
Thank you very much.
You're a retired UPS freight driver, but you were diagnosed with this very rare autoimmune neuromuscular disease. Give us a bit of background about yourself and give us a bit of insight into your diagnosis.
Well, in 2010, I was diagnosed, but originally they thought I just had Bell's palsy. Mm-hmm. I was on a vacation. We woke up one morning and the whole left side of my face was numb. My eye was drooping, and basically, like my cheek, my tongue, my lips were all numb. When I went to the doctor, he said that I had Bell's palsy, and he put me off of work for, that was April of 2010, mm-hmm. and I went back to work in July. The symptoms had not gone away completely, but had definitely improved. Mm-hmm. When I went back to work, the more that I did, because basically from April to July, I was just resting. I did very little. When I went back to work, the symptoms came back even stronger. Both eyes started drooping. I had total facial numbness and occasionally facial paralysis.
Is this something that was related to the work that you were doing? Because, you were resting, and then as soon as you started doing your normal activities, the symptoms became worse?
It had nothing to do with the work that I was doing. It has to do with myasthenia gravis manifests itself even stronger through stress and exertion and heat. So when I went back to work, it was during the summer, so that didn't help. Okay. Because the temperature was higher. When the temperature and the humidity are higher, sometimes it's harder for me to breathe, for me to, I'll lose a lot of muscle strength because of the heat and the exertion from the heat.
Did you or anybody think that you had a stroke? It sounded in the initial phases like you had a stroke, and I guess they ruled that out.
Well, when I first went to the ER, they ran a bunch of tests, and they said I had not had a stroke. They checked that. But then they went straight to the Bell's palsy, and they stuck with that. Even after July, when I went back to work, and then my last day of work was the beginning of November of 2010. And even, I went to numerous doctors, and, nobody mentioned myasthenia gravis until I went to a neurologist. And he ran some tests. Mm-hmm. He did an acetylcholine test. Mm-hmm. And before the results even got back, I went into what they call myasthenia crisis, and I was put in ICU. I was unable to breathe, and I was in there for 2 weeks.
Wow.
That was my first in the last 8 years, I've probably been hospitalized about 15 times.
Now, the difficulty or the inability to breathe, was that due to fatigue or your muscles not being able to function the way that they're supposed to? How did it become that severe, and why?
Well, the myasthenia affects the strength of your muscles. So your diaphragm is a muscle. So as the diaphragm got weaker, I didn't have enough strength to operate my diaphragm to fill and exhale the carbon, I get this confused, carbon monoxide out of my lungs. So it builds up and it makes even more fatigue.
How many people would you say are dealing with this muscular disease?
I don't know exactly, but when I was first diagnosed, I was told it's approximately 1 in 100,000, which is pretty rare.
That is.
Very rare. Since I've been diagnosed, I've met through online support groups, through my doctor, through lots of different channels, numerous people that have that. And I think the number might be a little bit lower, but it is very, very rare.
What age do people normally get diagnosed, or is it something that could go for years being misdiagnosed or even undiagnosed?
Correct. It is a disease that is misdiagnosed a lot. I was 48. For a male, that is pretty rare. But there are people, I know people that are children that have this disease. And I personally know a lady who was diagnosed when she was 26, and she is, forgive me, I won't say her name, but she's in her 70s now. And she has battled this all of her life.
It sounds like truly a battle. How do you manage? What are some of the current therapies that are available? And is everyone? Can anyone benefit from these therapies? Is there a level of this disease that just isn't going to respond to therapies, or is it pretty manageable once you diagnose it?
I have what is called refractory MG. It is. I've been told it's the most serious of the different stages. I have been through different treatments. I started with IVIG, which is a blood product that was infused into me. I did that for a few years, and it stopped working. Then I went to plasmapheresis, where I had a catheter in my chest. They pulled my blood out, ran it through a machine, a centrifuge, pulled the bad antibodies out of my blood, and that worked for a couple of years until August of last year. Nothing was working. I was here in my hometown. I was in ICU, and they life-flighted me from our hospital up to a major medical college up north. When we got there, excuse me, I get emotional.
No problem.
They told my wife I was never going to come home.
Devastating to her.
She had been through a lot. But while I was there, I have family members that are in the healthcare profession. And one of them told me about a clinical trial through a company called Alexion for a drug that was not, I can't think, FDA approved yet.
Okay.
And so when the neurologist from the college came, I asked her about it. And she helped me get signed up for the clinical trial for a drug called Solaris.
Oh, okay, Solaris.
That was Solaris.
Okay, Solaris. Okay.
Solaris. Yeah. While I was in the hospital, they got me stable. I was there for almost 30 days. And I came home at the very end of August of 2017. The beginning of November of 2017, I got approved for the clinical trial for Solaris. I got a phone call from the neurologist. She told me I was approved and that she was rushing the paperwork because I was still very unstable. I had been in the hospital twice from August to November. the day that I got approved for the clinical trial, the FDA approved the Solaris for general myasthenia use.
So that worked out
treatment of this disease.
Very well. That worked out very, very well.
It did and it didn't, because I had to start the whole process over.
So you had to start the process.
I had been approved.
That's great. Oh, my goodness. So they approved you for the trial. Now you had to get reapproved since it was approved. Since the drug was approved, you had to get reapproved?
Exactly.
Well, it seems like they would have made an exception in your case.
Well, I have I think she's called a patient advocate, somebody that will fight for me. And she stood up for me and got it rushed right through. November 17th, I started the new drug. Right. And my life has changed for the better ever since.
That's great. So you're managing it much better on this new therapy. Where can our listeners go and learn some more online about MG?
If you just Google myasthenia gravis, there will be a link to the Myasthenia Gravis Foundation, and you can click on that. And there is just, I've been reading on that website for years and years, and I don't think I'm halfway through. There is a ton of information.
So that's www.myasthenia.org. That's myasthenia.org if you'd like some more information.
Yes.
I appreciate you coming in and talking with us today. A very compelling story, and I'm glad that you're doing much, much better now after such a long journey and dealing with this disease. And I'm hoping that things work out well for you. Thank you again for coming in today, David.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neal Howard. Transcripts and audio of this program are available at healthprofessionalradio.com.au and also at hpr.fm. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, listen in, and download at SoundCloud.